Hi, Joe Cerrone.
And Alan Rosen.
Welcome to CAD 118 in our weekly Zoom classroom meeting. Alrighty, so we're currently working on or introducing Module 8 or Chapter 8, Converting and Sectioning. And in this assignment, you're to complete the practice exercises 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. The PDF is located right here for that chapter. If you click on it, you'll be into the textbook information. And what this information shows you how to do is how to convert 3D objects and 2D objects working with solids. And they still do a lot of work with surfaces and solid modeling. As you get farther back into CAD, it was surface modeling before solid modeling. But solid modeling is a better way of creating your geometry because you can 3D print it and you can do analysis with it. And so they go through and they show some of these different conversion techniques. Like if you take a mesh, you need to convert it so that you can create it, make it into a solid. And then they show some other information as far as being able to take like a solid model, and if you explode it, it'll turn it into a surface. And then you lose all your Boolean operations. But a lot of people will do that, and then they don't know how to put it back together, and you can't put it back together. Once you've exploded it, it's no longer ability to do sub-object modeling on it. And so I tend to avoid this command here on solids unless I'm done with it. If I want to go and take it apart and it does have a different visual look to it. I mean, and so some of this is kind of neat. If you wanted to have sort of that wireframe type of a look, it has a very strong visual appeal. Like if you watch some of the CGI graphics in some of these movies, you'll see things that are like mesh models and cars driving and things like that. And it is a very neat visual effect. And so oftentimes I will leave things as meshes, for visuals, but they're not as good for manufacturing and production. And so we convert these different models as we take a look at them. We have them in the main splash page here. And so we have, well, let's go to the module. And so we'll go to the content section. And then in module 8, we have these different practice exercises that we can go and work on. And in those exercises, we can do things like section planes, slicing, and flat shot. And so you can download these models, and we have all 4 of them as assigned for this project. If we take a look at what those models look like, what we're looking at is being able to take these models and then work with things like slicing. And so we can slice that model in half. If we were to put it back together, we can move it. Always use a known location. And then if we union that, we're going to go to a 3D workspace. Can union these parts together. And then if we were to slice that, we can go into our slice command. And I think it's down here. Let's see where it is in here. No.
On the modify be a lot easier way to go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where they put the icon for it. Sometimes it can get a little bit lost. I'm just going to use it from here. So we go through slice. We'll select the object to slice, hit enter, and then using O snaps, you need to have 3 points that would make that plane. And then we could hit enter, and it'll drive a plane through those different objects. And then if we kept both sides here, we can use the 3D move command and we can separate them back out. And so it's fairly straightforward as far as the assignments in the textbook and things like that. If you are looking to do more complicated models and things like that, we'd be happy to give you those assignments. But the way that the administration wants us to run the courses right now, we're following the textbook. And so as we continue working on these different assignments, we've got our ability to go through and slice this. They go through some other sectioning views and creating of these different geometries on here. In most likelihood, we will have one more module, possibly two. And so as we look at the textbook and we look at the chapter 9, we covered most of this material in the 117 class. And so printing and creating viewports and things like that, we're not going to do. We're going to go to module 10. And I thought this would be very useful if you ever have to put on a presentation and show your work. Being able to work with cameras and lights is a module that we will introduce as we get that developed. And so being able to set up a camera and doing a walkthrough, it's a really strong visual effect. And so we've done things like modeled the Skokie campus lab in room P134, and it's really kind of cool if you can walk through the lab and see it virtually. And so those are the type of things that you can do with cameras and animation. And that's one of Al's specialties, and so I'll use his knowledge for that to be able to go and work with that. And so we'll be having another module that will be located in the display on the main splash page, and then 11 we'll create the module for it, but we'll most likely make this bonus as we go through and we work with materials and mapping, being able to assign materials. This is a very tweaky kind of thing where, you know, you can spend a lot of time trying to get it to look perfect, and then people will use AutoCAD for that, where they'll, like, I was working with one of our instructors who was teaching a 3D Studio Max class, and they would design windows. And so, for example, the Park Ridge movie theater was in an area they were working on remodeling it. And so they would take a picture of it, and then they would model what it would look like with new windows. And they did that all virtually by being able to create a 3D model and then assign materials. And you really can't tell if it's real or virtual. And so it has a good application, and I think that's what we will be able to cover for this course. And so if we go back here to D2L, the assignment this week is to work on these practice exercises, put them on title blocks, complete the tasks as they're laid out in the textbook, and then don't forget, and we added this recently, quizzes and exams. And so we've put a quiz for each chapter, and you're to take the quiz for each of these chapters to get those points. And so make sure you take a look in the quizzes so that we make sure that we cover everything that we wanted to for the course. As we look at the calendar, all assignments will be due May 10th. And so the course, that's where our exit point is, and that's coming up pretty rapidly, as today is the 13th. All right, with that, Al, is there anything else that we want to talk about in our Zoom classroom meeting?
No, but if they need any help, just let us know. We're there today from 2 o'clock to 6. We're normally Wednesday from 8:30 until about 1. Sunday about the same thing on P132. But we're online Friday if you need some help also.
That's right, and so we are starting to get people coming in just to make sure they get everything done. If you have questions about, do I have everything in, just use the D2L email as the best way to get a hold of us, because it's kind of linked to the account, and we'll get a little message that says you have a question. Alrighty, with that, I'm going to stop the recording and open things up for questions.